Coronavirus obviously having a fairly substantial impact in the short term. How much visibility do you actually have in terms of how it's going to affect the business?
I think we have a lot of visibility, Guy, over the next kind of 2 or 3 weeks. We've taken out up to 25% of our flight schedules, mainly focusing on northern Italy over the period from the back end of March, first week of April. I think the big kind of mover for us would be the Easter holiday, the school Easter holiday, second week of April, third week of April. We don't see any reduction in travel demand over that period of time. That could change as the situation evolves over the next couple of weeks. But all of my experience in this industry tends to suggest that this will be a reasonably short-lived phenomenon. There is a little bit of hysteria at the moment. I think the good news is more of the information, the credible information like washing hands is getting out there. And I think it will settle down either at or immediately post-Easter as long as the events don't get out of control here in Europe. And I don't think they will.
The only way that this can be controlled at the moment, though, is by restricting travel. We don't have a medical way of dealing with it other than effectively quarantining people.
I think if you look at restricting travel, it's not going to be very effective either. You have free movement of people across Europe. I do think there's better education at the moment on self-isolation, where people develop symptoms. The numbers are tiny at the moment as well anyway. The number of people who are suffering from the virus are very small. So I think that would be the wrong measure. Clearly, passengers are already beginning to kind of cancel or avoid air travel. We've seen most of the airlines this morning reporting a large drop in short-term bookings, but I think it would be reasonably short-term.
When you say short-term bookings, that doesn't take you out to Easter?
No, it doesn't. We at the moment, under EU 261, we're going to complete the flight schedules for the next 2 weeks. We won't cancel flights unless we can give all passengers 2 weeks notification. So we're talking about the last 2 weeks of March, the first week of April. The big issue over the next week or two is will we roll that forward through April? There's a possibility we might. I suspect we won't, because I think the travel demand at Easter will still be reasonably positive. And you're emerging into a period of time too when temperatures are rising. The conditions for the spread of viruses are not very propitious across Europe.
Can you give me what are you seeing in terms of short-term demand here? Can you quantify that for me?
It's difficult. We have seen bookings decline by an average 25 to 30% on a daily basis over the last 7 days. This morning, for example, yesterday was better. Now, it's much higher in those routes where we're focused on travelling to northern Italy. Ryanair is the biggest airline in Italy, so clearly Italy is suffering a very severe downturn in air travel. Spain less so, the UK less so, Ireland almost nothing at all. But this may evolve very quickly in the next 2 or 3 days. But I suspect that's the kind of model going forward, that I think the airlines will continue to look at taking out up to 25% of the short-haul capacity, perhaps on a rolling basis if it continues to roll forward. I think on balance it will probably be a little bit better than that.
What are you hearing from government? What are they telling you?
Not a lot. Government, I think, are doing their job in communicating. I was reasonably impressed with the UK government yesterday. They're not banning sports events, again, because I don't think that's effective. They're not shutting down the tube in London. Again, I don't think that would be effective. They're calling for calm. They're calling for everybody to take reasonably measured steps, like continue to wash your hands, personal hygiene. And if those people who feel they're developing symptoms of a flu-like symptoms, self-isolate and don't go to your doctor's GP surgery, get the doctor to visit you.
Business versus leisure?
Really, in our market, we would find it very difficult in the short term to isolate between the two. There's certainly an immediate drop, I would think, in business. Leisure, short term, tends to book well in advance, and therefore we don't see that kind of disappearing, or we don't allow cancellations, so we don't see cancellations in leisure. But I would have thought the more immediate bookings, the drop-off in bookings towards the back end of March, first week of April at the moment, are largely business, or it's not leisure, it's more business, and it can stop very quickly. We don't yet see that drop-off. We're still seeing strong bookings over the 2-week Easter period. And we, funnily enough, have consciously taken the decision not to reduce prices. In most previous kind of events like this, we would slash prices, keep people flying, $9.99. We think that's the wrong thing to do. If people want to travel now, they'll travel. But pricing or stimulating excess air travel while the coronavirus is spreading across Europe is the wrong thing to do. So we will take the hit on our load factor for the next couple of weeks, and we will continue to manage it sensibly.
What is Boeing telling you? What is the EASA telling you about when the MAX comes back?
There's a general consensus, I think, at the moment that we will see the return to service in North America mid-summer, June, July-ish time. That's not enough for us to take delivery of some of our MAX aircraft before the summer peak, which was June, July, August. So we've delayed our first deliveries now until September, October. I think there's a reasonable degree of confidence at this stage that it will return to service in North America in June, July, in time for their summer peak. I'm not sure any of those aircraft or the grounded aircraft will be back flying in Europe in time for the July-August period. I do believe the 450 manufactured but grounded aircraft in North America will then get delivered over the period from August through to the spring of next year. I think there's a greater doubt at the moment about how fast Boeing can ramp up production. I think they will restart the production line, but they're a long way away from getting back to 40 or 50 aircraft a month. I think they'll start at 10, maybe 20 aircraft a month. So we are less confident that the backlog of aircraft deliveries will be caught up quickly. But I've been assured by Boeing that Ryanair will be at the front of the queue. I think the leasing companies and some of the flakier customers will have their deliveries postponed so they can prioritise the deliveries to the likes of Ryanair and Southwest.
As a group, you now operate a mixed fleet.
That's true.
So you've got Lauda, who fly A320s,
that's right.
Airbus. If Airbus came to you and said, we'll offer you some earlier slots, would you buy A320s? How do you now think about the way that the fleet is going to develop?
My answer to that, to every aircraft manufacturer, has always been the same. If the price is right, we'll buy aircraft today, tomorrow, on Friday.
There's a slot issue as well. If Airbus came to you and said, we'll offer you earlier slots at a good price, you would buy Airbus,
I would buy Airbus if they offer me earlier slots at a price. I'm only interested in buying aircraft that are enabling me to lower my operating costs and pass on savings to my customers. The challenge has been that Airbus's order book has been largely full out to 2024, so they've been pricing high for the last 4 or 5 years. If that was to change and their pricing offer changes, I will order them today, tomorrow, and on Friday, and I will also do the same with Boeing. I'm in active discussions with Boeing now about new aircraft orders to cover the period 24 to 28, focusing on more MAX 200s and also on the bigger MAX 10s.